I want to introduce our panelists who are already here. If you joined us at the top of the hour, I'd introduce to you Dr. Tim Mwangi. Also joining us this morning, I'll give you the profiles of our guests much later, is Trufosa Kwaka. Also, we do have with us this morning Dr. Juma Mukwana. We have with us Reverend Geoffrey Njenga. And we do have with us as well Dr. George Njenga. Good morning, gentlemen and lady.
Good morning.
Thank you. Right, so we want to actually buckle down to our discussion this morning, and it is 6:30. I'll give you a handy opportunity on the lectern there to tell us more about balancing the wheel of life. But maybe just to get introductory remarks from you, what is your idea about balancing the wheel of life? Because I know you have different approaches, and I will see how each and every one of you is going to slice and dice this particular topic this morning, also from the lectern there. But let's just begin with you, Tim.
Yes, I think balance has to do with an integrated life. All of these responsibilities that you mentioned, whether family or work, social, we live in a community, they're all part of us, and we must attend to all of them. So it's about an integrated life.
Right, fantastic. And of course, even in the meantime, we shall be on the lectern as we hear from also Trufosa. Good morning.
Good morning. So I think when we talk about balance,
yes,
is we are trying to look at how can we live life in the most fulfilled way possible.
Yes.
And so that's what I'll be looking at.
All right.
Just having that great fulfillment.
Okay.
That I've done my best at the end of time.
Fantastic. Dr. Juma.
Thanks. My understanding is as a human being, we are only complete. We have technical skills, we have soft skills, we have social skills. And how we balance all these affects how we succeed both at work and at home. So really, it's a delicate balance.
It's a delicate balance.
Yes.
Right. Let's hear from Reverend Geoffrey.
Yes, indeed.
Good morning.
I think, thank you. Yes, they have said it. I think it's a balanced life where you maintain the balance to achieve fulfillment. Because I think, above all else, what we are looking for in life is fulfillment. And we know that sometimes we pursue all manner of things. Perhaps we get them, but we do not get fulfilled.
Right, thank you. All right, let's hear from Dr. Njenga. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been a while.
Teba. Yes, it's about what they have said. Fulfilling all the responsibilities of your life, what you have to do in life. But you also have to do it in order to be happy. If you're not happy doing it, then there's a problem. Yes.
Right, fantastic. Okay, so I want just to give you a bit of housekeeping here as far as time is concerned. I have my red card and yellow card and my bell as well. This is just for the sake of keeping time, for the benefit of them that they've never been to this particular forum before. So along the way, I'm going to raise the yellow card just to make sure that, yes, you are aware that you are at least midway through your given time. And when I raise the red card, just know you should be winding up, so you can be giving your headline thoughts. And of course, if you go beyond time, I'm going to ring the bell. So if you see the yellow card, kindly don't get startled, right, and start winding up. Unless you see the red card, then you know you should be winding up. Of course, when you hear the bell tolling, then you should be out of the lectern as well, just for the sake of time. But we want to begin with you. Remember, you're mic'd, so you don't have to. There's another mic as well over there. But we want to begin with Dr. Tim Mwangi, who will walk to the podium. He will tell us who he is, and of course, he will continue with the discussion. The balancing the wheel of life. Balancing the wheel of life is what we're using this morning. Head over to our Twitter handle, and you can share your contribution, ask questions there as well. Also, you can find us on Facebook. That is AM Live NTV, and also 20686 is our SMS portal as well. So, Dr. Tim, thank you. You have 5 minutes beginning now.
Thank you, and good morning to the viewers. I serve as the Vice President for Strategy for the International Leadership Foundation, and I have also served quite for a long time, also in the faith community. I would say that, first of all, maybe just a history of this question of balance. Initially, I think the broad understanding of balance was maybe basically 4 areas. You'd look at maybe the spiritual, the intellectual, the physical, and the social. For those who come from the Christian faith, they remember a small verse, Luke 2:52, that balances those four. However, more recently, there is an understanding that there are other areas that need attention. One of these is the area of emotions, which is kind of a bridge between the intellectual and the social. That yes, in a community, but also, how your attitude to life and motivation and so on. And the whole area of emotional intelligence has grown out of that. There's also the area of the vocation, which has to do with work. It's how you employ your physical strength, but also your intellect, your mind. It's a bridge between the two so that you can look at your balance in terms of the area of work or vocation or career. Out of the physical as well, because of the importance of money, we are in a monetary economy, of course, the whole question of financial balance, financial intelligence, financial balance, all that has grown again in some terms of somebody who is able to self-manage in the area of money. Finally, I would feel that the other area that is now growing is the area of what you hold dear, your values, and your ethics as well, what you practice. And again, that could be a bridge between your spiritual, commitments and the social as well. So today, even just the understanding of balance itself is a bit more complicated, so to speak. And yet we have to operate in all these realms. That's why in my opening remarks, I talked about the need then for an integrated approach. Interestingly, for the younger people, the millennials and maybe younger, they don't even think about work-life balance. They actually think about life as one thing. So it's a life balance situation. For them, work is only a small part, it's very integrated and so on. Unlike the older generation for whom work was a very big thing, for them, finding fulfillment, happiness is actually a bigger thing. And so it's a question of life balance. And they walk away from a job, not because it's not well paying, but because they don't feel happy, they don't feel like it's giving them what they need and so on. Then I thought maybe I would mention a few tips, since I'm sure viewers would appreciate, what is it that would help us all to get better balance, because we are all struggling and buffeted by life. One is, of course, to be clear on your end game. What's the legacy that you want to leave behind? Because that helps you to make the right choices along the way. Secondly, is to remember you cannot do it all. So have the attitude that I can only do a few things. So whether it's delegation, whether it's to do with prioritization, because nobody can do everything that there is to do today. There's a place for getting some training and maybe, equipping skills to be able to find balance. There's also the place for time for reflection. I think that's one of the things we are getting less and less of today. Whether it's a personal retreat or just time away on leave and truly take leave, that's a challenge today. Most people would just simply go to the side hustle or something like that. I would also say the place of ethical living right. Because then you don't have much baggage. A lot of the issues that we struggle with in terms of this area of balance is because there's a lot of weight we are carrying. Maybe say for example, you have some secret life that you don't want everybody else to know, so you're kind of holding this back and it's weighing on you, yet you want to be free with the family, you want to be free at work or in your faith community, so ethical living. And I said it, the next one is a faith community. There are a lot of studies that are showing people who are in that kind of community are able to experience a better sense of wellness or health. In fact, in the whole area of leadership today, one of the new breaking areas is spiritual leadership, whereby somehow about your spirit, because that's the deepest part of it is our spirit. And when that is well, you are able to express your leadership well. And finally, I would say is a place, of course, of family. Again, there are lots of studies, a lot of corporates today are even investing in not only the individuals, but their families, because they found out that people who are well vested in their families, who are happy at their family level, are able to bring that happiness to work and are more productive. So these would be some thoughts for me at the outset.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tim Mwangi. And of course, I've picked up some of the salient points he's raised this morning. We shall be teasing out some of this much later in the course of the program. He is the Vice Chair of the International Leadership Foundation, also is the Chair of the Bible Society of Kenya board as well. And we shall be drilling deeper on this. Remember, if you have questions, you can also paper the questions to our panelists via Twitter. Our Twitter handle is AM11TV. AM11TV is our profile name on Facebook, and 20686 our SMS portal. So looking at some of his facets that he's raised: delegation, training, ethical leadership, faith, community, and family, right? They always talk about integrated reporting from the corporate sector. I think also integrated reporting should be also from our own lives as well. How integrated are we, right? Or is everything out of kilter as far as your life is concerned? Right, we want to hear up next on the lectern Tufosa Kwakwesumba, who's the principal of St. Paul's University, and also we shall hear how she'll approach this particular topic, balancing the wheel of life. Trufi,
Thank
you got 5 minutes.
Thank you and good morning. And good morning, my fellow panelists. What a topic and what a time to be thinking about it. I say this because just yesterday I was telling some friends of mine, where has the year gone? I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like the year flew out of my hands and I really do not know where it went to. So balancing of life, first of all, I want to start by what is the meaning, why do we talk about balance? We talk about balance because many times we are out of balance. And so what is being out of balance? Being out of balance means that something is not at equilibrium. Something that is supposed to be set is not where it is set. And in this case, we're talking about our lives. It means we feel that it is out of control and things are not as they should be. In the movie Lion's King, and I hope you're watching it or you're going to watch, they talk about the circle of life, and Simba, so I wouldn't say the story so that I don't spoil for those who haven't watched, but just they talk about the circle of life. And in the circle of life, one of the questions that Simba asks his father is, but Daddy, we eat the gazelles, and yet you're saying we need to protect them. And the father then explains that when a lion dies, the body goes into the soil, and out of the soil the grass grows. And when the grass grows, the gazelles are able to eat it. And that way, we protect the gazelles, but then we are also contributing to the circle of life. And later on, Simba is reminded about the circle of life, and he's told, you've got to pay your contribution to the circle of life. What am I saying? We are not animals, so we are not in the animal kingdom where man eats man society. That's not what I'm advocating for. But I'm saying there's a circle to our lives. And in that circle, we've got to ensure that things are in equilibrium. So a couple of thoughts there as we look at this topic. One is to pick from what Jim Collins said. Jim Collins said that good is the enemy of great. You've got to, with all your life, look at how can I live a great life. At the end of the day, at the end of my life, what would I like my life to be counted? Like Tim said, what do I want my life to be like? In other words, if I was to write my own eulogy, what would I like my eulogy to read like? So some thoughts as you look at the decisions that you have to look at the circle of life. Number one is that you have to think about, when you're making decisions, think about short versus long term. There are some decisions we make that are in the short term, but they're an enemy to your long term. So think about it in terms of, I need to make this decision, yes, now, but what does it mean for the long term? Number two, think about temporary versus permanent. There are decisions we make in the temporary, but they affect our permanent. In fact, the wise saying says, do never make a permanent decision in a temporary situation. Never make a permanent decision in a temporary situation. My third one that I'd like to give is principles versus pleasure, and Tim has talked about it as well. Live your life based on principles, not on pleasure. So pleasure versus principles. Sometimes we go for the pleasure, but forget the principles. What are the principles that guide you? And finally, my final thought is this. If you were to imagine that your life you're going to live 80 years, then it means you have 960 months. So depending with, when I look around the table here, calculate how many months you have lived, and imagine you're going to live up to 80. How many more months do you have to live? Actually, when you do it in months, it's very sobering. Then to ask yourself, how can I live my life in a way that it is the greatest of all? Why? Because you just don't want a good life, but you want a great life. And as you do that, think about the three things I've mentioned so that at the end of the day, we can live a great life. Thank you.
All right. So what are the short-term goals and the long-term goals that you do have? What are some of the principles that are guiding you in life as well? We shall be looking at this particular, of course, those principles that she's raised this morning and the raft of other issues as well in the course of the program. But right now, we want also to introduce to you Dr. Juma Mukhwana, who is the Director General and CEO of Kenya National Qualifications Authority, and of course is going to speak to us as well on that same subject, balancing the wheel of life. So you got 5 minutes beginning now.
Okay, thanks, Dipal. And this is an area that I grapple with every day. My name is Juma Mukhwana. I'm the Director General of the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. One of the things that I'm grappling with every day is how to fit skills into the workplace. So the work that I do every day is, and every time I talk to especially employers, one of the big issues they're saying is that there is a big mismatch between what they are looking for and what they are getting from the market in terms of the graduates that we are producing. If you look at it historically, we have always assessed the ability of somebody to fit into the workplace using the technical skills. But more and more increasingly, it has been found now that it's not enough for you to be an engineer, it's not enough for you to be a doctor, because you need other skills. You need social skills, you need soft skills, because you are not working with machines, you are working with people. So it means that we need a more holistic person. We need a more complete person for this person to be really productive in the workplace. And so there is a lot of implication in terms of who is the right worker for the right place. And you can see that the worker is changing. So now we are saying you need 50% of technical skills, but you also need 50% of social, team, self-management, networking, social skills for you to function and really perform in the workplace. And so, so as I was coming here, I was imagining then the world is changing, and I've seen young companies really encompassing this in terms of bringing home to the workplace, because what you see today is a workplace that is well integrated between the technical aspects, but also I see a place where we have brought our home into it. And so some of my thoughts then on this is, how do we then take this as a country? One, we need a workplace that then brings our social skills to bear, that brings our networking, that brings our leadership, our teamwork, our spiritual aspects into the workplace, so that we need a workplace that is complete, that makes us fulfilled, that enables us to express ourselves more than just using the technical skills. And so this goes beyond then the technical aspects, as I've said, and it goes towards there. And at the end of the day, number two is that work is really useless if it doesn't impact society. And work is useless if it doesn't impact you as a person. So we are saying we need work that is fulfilling to others, but we also need work that is fulfilling to you, so that at the end of the day you go home feeling, I have contributed to the improvement of humanity. And so the kind of workplace that we are now looking for is, how do we make sure that both the technical, the soft, the social skills of our workers is brought to bear. And I think that is, because at the end of the day, after we have worked for 60 years, we are social beings. We have to go back to society. And one of the things that we've seen is people who retire then and don't want to go home, because you have spent your whole life trying to be part of a workplace. All of a sudden you realize you needed to be more complete than that. And so how do we prepare ourselves so that as we work, we are human beings, we are social, we are networking, And at the end of the day, when all the work is done, one, we've impacted society. Two, we have impacted ourselves in a way that we have grown from where we were to somewhere else. But more importantly, that when we now have to go back to society, we still feel fulfilled, we still feel needed, we still feel that we are still part of this society, because part of the previous work experience was that we actually got disconnected from society in such a way that we had people who retired in Nairobi and didn't want to go back to the rural areas because they didn't know how to fit in. Or they went back to the rural areas and they didn't really know how to become part of society again. So today, what we are advocating for is work in such a way that you are both in the workplace and you're both in society, so that when you are not working anymore, nothing really changes about you, because at the end of the day, we are all human. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Juma Mukwana. But the question will be then, how do you get still that balancing act, right? And that is what you're trying to probe as well. Because most of you are saying, yeah, we really want to have this particular equilibrium, family and work, but still we find one side is lopsided. This is what we're actually trying to decipher this morning, and we thank him for his sentiments as well. Up next, we have Reverend Geoffrey Njoroge, who's walking to the lectern right now. Njenga, hey, you know we have two Njengas here today. He is an accredited mediator, and also he's a corporate governance expert as well. So you got 5 minutes beginning now.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I spent most of my time thinking about corporate governance issues and also training mediators and also practicing mediation. And as you may also guess, I do preaching and teaching. That's how I spend my time. Now, in thinking about this topic, the question that comes to my mind is, what really is the goal of life? What are we looking for? What am I looking for? And I have learned that people are looking for fulfillment. People want to be fulfilled. They want to know that what they did today had meaning, purpose, and value for them. People are also looking for joy, and they're also looking for happiness. And thinking about balance, therefore, I think we then ought to know that these things will not be unless we pursue a sense of balance. And that's why the balanced wheel, the business, the finance, the health, the family, the fun, romance, personal development, and all these things, including fun and recreation and contributing to society, are important. So I think it would be very useful for us to pursue a balanced life for us to achieve the fulfillment that we are looking for. But what is the reality? The reality is we tend to be terribly unbalanced. When it comes to health, we are not too sure what it is that we are looking for. We eat like there is no tomorrow, and more often than not, the wrong things. The doctors will tell us we are eating the wrong things. We work like we want to do everything today. We pursue work like there is nothing else. In fact, we push the body until the body collapses, and then you're in the hospital, and you can obviously not pursue what you wanted to pursue. Family life. Some of us are satisfied with the fact that we got married at some point. You ask most of us, romance? Really? What romance? I have a wife and she's at home. Or I have a husband and he's at home. And that is, you think that's enough until then problems begin to come because you pursued what in effect is a very unbalanced life. We need to come to terms with this reality and then ask ourselves, what really will get me what I'm looking for? And that really is the essence of this thing about a balanced life. And I want to make a few comments, a few contributions in then achieving the balance in life. One is making choices. And I think that has already been covered here. We need to make choices. Life is that you will not be able to do everything that you set out to do. That life is brief, life is short, and therefore we just have to be careful because it will keep throwing things at us. on any given day, there will be much more than you can do. And if we want to live balanced life, we just have to learn to say no. Somebody told me that word no is small but very powerful, that you can say no. Secondly, be equipped. Whatever it is that you set out to do, be the very best. So be equipped, study it, and be the best that you can. And you will definitely enjoy yourself. And then someone here said, work with others. That's a fact of life. You will not be able to achieve alone. We just have to learn to work. And you know, there's this thing about vain competition that we struggle with. And there is this scarcity mentality that we suffer. That if somebody gains, I lose. That if you gain, I lose. And therefore, I will do everything I can to bring you down so that I remain up. That's evil. That's vain competition. It gets you nowhere because you begin to do things which you really don't have to do. Another thing which I think is important is godliness. You know, we struggle with that, some of us, but there is a God in heaven who governs in the affairs of men. We cannot run away from that because it is the truth. There is a guy called King Solomon. He tried everything in his own strength, and he failed big time. At the end of his excursions, at the end of his experiments, he said, vanity of vanity and chasing after the wind. And you know, that guy achieved much, much more than you will achieve. That he did much more than you will do in his own strength, and he pursued those things for their own sake. He said, chasing after the wind. It is much later in his life that he discovered the truth of life, that there is a God in heaven, and no matter how much we try and explain that away, it will not work. He said everything has been hard, and he had done everything. And this is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God. And without godliness in our own lives, we will be chasing after the wind. So as you seek all these things to gain fulfillment and happiness and joy, we need to remember that there is a God. Which also brings in another important factor, which is values. Our country is in dire need for men and women who will know what is right and what is wrong and pursue what is right. Now, finally, the brevity of life. Trufosa has told us about months. It is actually not 80. 10 is bonus. It is 70. That's what you are given. And most of you viewers, if you have spent already 50% of that time, which means what? You are 35. The next 50 years, you will be dead. And that is a sobering thought, that you're not going to be there tomorrow. Life is brief. Grab it and do the best you can. Thank you.
Right. And if you'll not be dead by then, that will be a bonus life that God has given you. Right. The good book says, teach us to number our days that we may... That we may? Yes, that we may apply wisdom. Right.
You became a preacher.
I became a preacher, actually. You've inspired me. We want to take a short break right now. When we circle back, of course, we continue with more. We shall hear from Dr. George Njenga, who is the Executive Dean of Strathmore University Business School. Of course, also he'll give us his thoughts about balancing this wheel of life. Right? Is it a mirage? When we try to approach it, it eludes us, right? So please don't go away. Stick around for more.
Oh, thank you very much, Deborah. My colleagues have said a lot, and so if I repeat, you will forgive me. My opinion is that balancing your life means fulfilling all the needs of your life. And it has one purpose, that at the end of the day, you live a unity of life. Now, that's a bit of a difficult issue, but let's go down to the details. What is life? What is your life? Is it the matter, the body, together? Is it the spirit and heart? Yes, it is. Matter, body, spirit, and heart. Matter and body, the lowest part, the animal part, refers to the needs of the health and rest that you need in your life. So these two things are very important. We have to take care of our health, and we have to rest our mind and our body as a totality in order to balance that part of your life. You can't just keep working it like a machine. You're not a machine. it demands management of the material things of life. The spirit, this is the hardest part, which is the intellect and the emotions and the will together. The spirit is what makes you alive. If you want, any material thing, it can be dead like this wood, but what is it that keeps it alive? It's the spirit, the soul. Now that spirit has an intellect, has a will, and has emotions. The purpose of the intellect is that you learn, and learn everything about your life, about your God, and about others. The will is that you actually do what you know is best in your life. And your emotions are those things that will act as obstacles along the way, but also sometimes very helpful. And then, I think this is very important, but I've added one thing, your heart. Your heart is very funny because now that all of us are speaking about the great book, I remember something about your heart in the scripture. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be. Isn't it? So if your treasure is in matter, then that is where your heart will be. If it is in spirit, that is where your heart will be. That is what will contain your heart. But in brief, what is heart? Your heart are those things that you possess. This is a very important issue for me. Your heart is God, is your family, is your society. And only to the extent of the things you possess in those things. So God, how much do you possess of God? In other words, how much do you know and live with about God? The second one is family. How much do you love your husband or your wife and your children and the extended family? But you possess in so long as you love. Then the society. How much do you reach out beyond these things to others? Balancing all these things that have been mentioned requires that you fulfill 5 things in your life. And by the way, this is because I am a philosopher, so I can tell you these things is after reading a lot of philosophy and hearing a lot of people and seeing what is happening around me. In order to do these things, you need to work on 5 areas, which I can talk about later, but then it's up to you to think about them in the meantime. Number 1 is that you have to build your professional life, your study. You have to work. Work means exerting yourself for the good of others and yourself. The second thing is you have to work on your character. You have to build the virtues that make your life fulfilled. If you want to work and you can't wake up in the morning, if you want to work but you don't have order, then you're not going to work well. So you don't balance your life. You spend more time messing around than anything. But you also have many other virtues. The spiritual ascetical means that you will have to overcome your emotional deficiencies, your attacks and so on. The weaknesses of your life. You have to struggle. Life is a struggle, a very difficult struggle. Many times we cry struggling against our defects, against the difficulties of the brothers and sisters around us. Then there is the doctrinal, which has been spoken about. How much of God do you know? Do you even read the scripture? Or do you know just 2 words of the scripture, not the whole content and the unity of it? And then the last thing is you have to serve others. Beyond the first 4 deal with you as a person, but the 5th calls you out to action. That is to give yourself to others. And with that, hopefully, if you struggle in all these things, then you might reach a unity of life and get fulfilled. But the last thing I want to tell you is struggle. Wherever you are, in whatever circumstances you have been given by God, there is nothing that is for granted. You have a purpose, and it is right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. George Njenga.